Hello, let's discuss the importance of proofreading or editing your work. Now, proofreading is the final stage in the writing process. Whether you are writing a business letter, a formal report, a memo, an essay, an article, an email for work, or a paragraph, you should always check your writing for errors, because what you write is lasting. It leaves a lasting impression. It can't be changed once you've sent an email or written a report or written a business letter. So proofreading is a crucial step in the writing process. Now, sometimes after spending so much time on your ideas, which is gathering the content and deciding how you want to present your ideas, you may want to avoid proofreading your written work. You're so tired of looking at it. However, I must reiterate the fact that it is an extremely important stage in the writing process. And if it's done carefully, you will be proud of your final piece of writing. So sometimes you're so tired of working on the writing that you're tempted just to say, you know what, I'm just going to leave the proofreading and editing stage. It's fine. I checked it over a few times while I was writing it. No, don't do this. Be careful, as this stage is essential. If you want to leave a lasting, favorable impression on your audience, on your reader, it is crucial that you complete the final editing proofreading stage. So here are some proofreading tips that I like to share with people. The first tip is to read your essay or business letter or resume or report or any other piece of writing that's important to you. I tell students and people that I've worked with to read it aloud and slowly. Go to the privacy of your room, take your time, and read it aloud. Reading aloud helps you to find problem areas. You may hear some awkward sentences or phrasing. You may notice that you've misused punctuation or omitted a piece of punctuation, and you might see that some of your sentences or paragraphs do not flow. They don't run together. So when you take your time and read it out loud, that really does help. Here's another proofreading pointer or tip that I like to give adults. And another trick is to read your writing line by line, taking your time. It helps to get a piece of paper or a ruler, and you can cover each paragraph and then read your writing line by line, focusing on every single line and every single word. Some students find that pointing to each word as you read it helps you to catch errors. Or you might find words that you've omitted if you go from word to word and point to them. This helps you to focus on each sentence as a separate unit, and it also makes it easier for you to identify your errors, because surprisingly, you don't realize how easy it is to omit small little words like and, the, to, of, and this does change the meaning of what you're saying, and those are mistakes. The third pointer to help you with proofreading and editing skills is sometimes after spending so long on a piece of writing, you become so familiar with it that it's really hard to find your own errors. So there are two things you can do here. One is you might ask somebody at home, somebody you could trust, somebody that you work well with, to take a look at your writing, proofread it, circle some errors, give you some pointers and some suggestions, and show you where you've made mistakes or maybe omitted words. Another thing that you could do, another pointer, is you could try leaving your writing for a couple of days and then go back and proofread it. Like maybe leave it for 2-3 days. Hopefully you've got the time. Now, if you're doing things at the last minute and writing something at the last minute, you can't do that. But if it's a more important piece of writing, then I suggest you go back and put it aside and then go back 2 or 3 days later. You will be surprised that you will notice how many different errors you'll notice that you didn't spot earlier in the writing process if you just put it aside and go back with a fresh mind a day, 2-3 days later. The fourth pointer is that you can use grammar and spell check on your computer And that will help you with some of your editing, but you can't rely on it completely. Many errors will be undetected by the computer. And so many times students have said to me, well, the computer didn't pick up that mistake, so how can it be wrong? It is. The computer won't always pick up homonym errors. There are other subtleties that it might not pick up. So I really suggest you get in the habit of using a dictionary, a thesaurus, looking up grammar rules. If you're not certain, go online and visit grammar rules. Have a nice little handy grammar guide with you. Or I have a video on so many different rules of punctuation and grammar and spelling, etc., that feel free to take a look at those and read those. They will help you. So now I have an editing checklist that I recommend that you use before you hand in a letter, if you're writing something important for your business environment, if you have an important meeting and you need to have some kind of a report prepared. Follow this checklist, which will help you to know what to look for when you're proofreading for errors. The first category to look at is your sentence structure. One thing is sentence fragments. Take a look and make sure that all your sentences are complete, and make sure that every single sentence has a subject and a verb, and that you're not writing in incomplete sentences. Excuse me. I'd like to point out that every single idea which I have raised here, every single pointer like sentence fragments, etc., each bullet, there is a video in my website to correspond with each of these points. And I have highlighted all the ideas that you will find rules on in my website. So this one would be on sentence fragments. That's why it's highlighted. The next pointer is you must avoid run-on sentences. Now, a run-on sentence is two thoughts that are incompletely joined or run together without a connecting word between them. And a comma splice consists of two thoughts that are joined together, but they're joined with a comma. Again, you'll find something in my website on run-ons, and there's something called comma splices. Another pointer and something you should look for to help you with proofreading is, have you used parallel structure? You'll find that in the website. Parallel structure to highlight parallel ideas. Let me give you a quick example. The boy was tall, well-built, and he had blonde hair. That's not parallel because you're using adjectives. He's tall, he's well-built, but now you're saying he had blonde hair. It's not parallel with what you're saying. So to make it parallel and to correct it, you'd say the boy was. Here are your adjectives. He was tall, he was well-built, and blonde. So you've got three adjectives making it parallel. Another pointer is, do you vary the length of your sentences? Are you using different types of sentences? And I've outlined those for you. There are sentences called simple, compound, complex, and finally compound complex. You do not want all your sentences to be single. He went to the store, period. He bought a suit, period. Then he bought a pair of shoes, period. Finally, he bought a tie. They're simple. They don't flow well when they're simple. So you want variety in the types of sentences you use. So make sure you're familiar with different types of sentences. Next is your grammar. All right. Have you shifted verb tenses? You might want to look further into that. That means all your verbs should either all be in the present or all be in the past. You can't be shifting and flip-flopping within a paragraph. Do your subjects and verbs agree? Do your subjects agree with your verbs? It's called subject-verb agreement. A single subject must take on a single verb. A plural subject has to have a plural verb agree with it. Otherwise, that's a major grammatical error, subject-verb agreement errors. Have you used the correct form of the verb? There are all kinds of verbs, verb forms. Have you used the correct form? And your pronouns. Do your pronouns agree with their antecedents? If you're not sure what that means, again, there's a video called Pronouns and Their Antecedents. And the last point is, are all your verbs in the active voice? Now, it's good to have your verbs in the active voice, which means the subject is doing all the work, is doing it all. It's all in the point of view of the subject. I, people, individuals, and your verbs go along with in the active voice. Like, I am going to school. That is in the active voice. Unless there's a reason you're writing in the passive voice. And again, you might want to review the difference between active and passive. Active voice is much more common in formal writing. Now, punctuation is something else you want to look at. Have you used commas? You'll find I have a lot of rules on commas, and your commas are used to add clarity. And be sure you use them correctly. Don't use them too frequently and unnecessarily. Did you check your use of apostrophes? And with apostrophes is contractions as well. Like do not is don't. You don't use contractions in formal writing, like don't and didn't. In formal writing, you would say do not, did not, and you would not use contractions. Did you use quotation marks around direct quotes? Did you watch for these pieces of punctuation? Colon, semicolon, dash, hyphen, and parentheses. Do you know how to use them properly? If not, you should learn how to use that punctuation properly. Did you include the correct end punctuation? Those are punctuation marks at the end of each sentence, which include period, question marks, exclamation marks. And does each sentence begin with a capital? Sometimes you might just leave that off. It's a careless mistake. You know you should have a capital. Just go back and fix that up. So there are lots and lots of rules on the use of capitals if you'd like to check that. And avoid using contractions in informal writing, which I just mentioned, like your, isn't, and don't. And that is part of understanding apostrophes. The next category is spelling. Watch your spelling when you're proofreading. Pay attention to homonym errors. Those are words that have the same sound but different spelling and meanings. For example, there, and there. There are three there's. Your and your. It's and its. There are many, many different types of homonyms. Whose and whose. Etc. Stationary and stationary. There are two principles. There's so many homonyms. So make sure you understand the use of homonyms. Are your words spelled correctly? Are you using spell check? That's fine, but that's not enough. Also, be sure to use a dictionary and a thesaurus. A thesaurus will give you not only it help you with your spelling, but it gives you synonyms. It gives you new words, synonyms. Okay, so instead of saying pretty, it would tell you a synonym in a thesaurus would tell you another word for pretty is attractive. So you can come up with different words. Watch for abusages. Abusages are words, they're not homonyms, they don't sound the same, but they're close, like then and than, advice and advise, and effect and affect. Those are called abusages. There are many of those. Check your dictionary. Again, you might want to see what I have to offer on abusages in a video. Your use of language is crucial. And in the proofreading stage, watch for sexist language. Now, sexist language demonstrates gender discrimination, and you have to be careful that you do not use sexist language and that your writing is gender neutral. What that means here is an example to show you. Instead of chairman or chairwoman, which is gender specific, both of them, you now use the term chairperson. All right? Chairperson. Instead of salesman, saleswoman, it's a salesperson or a clerk, a sales clerk. Another point is to avoid using slang, which is street talk. You do not use slang in formal writing. In the business world, in a piece of formal writing, it's okay if it's a letter to a friend or an email to a friend. But anything more formal that's work-related, business-related, academic writing, writing for school, like if you're in college or university or high school, you don't use slang. Example, kid and guy are slang. You would say the child, the boy, the young person, and for guy you'd say the male, a male or a man. You wouldn't use those words. Something else to keep in mind is cliches. You try to not use cliches in your writing. Cliches are phrases that have been so overused that they're no longer effective in writing. Examples, instead of saying I am up bright and early, that's a cliche, just say I woke up very early this morning. It goes without saying. It's an unnecessary comment and it's a cliche. Or to say her teeth are like pearls, why not just say she has extremely white teeth? So avoid cliches. Something else, avoid wordiness. So that's being too wordy. Watch that you don't go on and that your words get confusing if you go on for too long. Readers lose patience if you're not clear and concise in your choice of words. For example, don't say this. In 2 subjects, I received grades that reflected lower than acceptable accomplishment. That's very wordy and confusing. Doesn't sound good. Get to the point. Say, I failed 2 subjects. It's easier for a reader to read that and just to get for you to get to the point so the reader understands you and doesn't get frustrated. Next is to choose your words carefully. Your choice of words is called your diction. The words that you use is your diction. Try not to use overworked words. Example, that is my favorite thing to do. Thing to me is an overworked, meaningless word. What do you mean that's your favorite thing? Do you mean it's your favorite activity? It's your favorite hobby? Your favorite interest? Okay. Other examples of overworked words are words like nice, good, cute, lovely. They're very simple words. They're overused. Try to be more descriptive than that was a nice dress. What's nice about it? Be more descriptive. Another point is to avoid being repetitive, so avoid repetition. Rather than repeating the same word over and over, use a thesaurus and find a synonym. Synonyms are words that mean the same, so instead of saying pretty, you'd say attractive. You'd come up with another word as a synonym. They're words that mean the same. For example, if you're talking about a car, you don't want to keep repeating the noun car, car, car in your writing. You could call it a vehicle, a method of transportation, or an automobile, and you would change it. Next is to try to avoid long, complicated sentences that are filled with abstract nouns and syllables that are words that have multi-syllables. So words that are too long with a lot of syllables. This is called pretentious writing, and you don't want to be pretentious. You want to be to the point. You don't want your sentences complicated. Some people think that if they write this way, it's more impressive, and it really isn't. It's better to be concise, to the point, and clear. And don't use offensive language like any obscene language or swear words. In your personal life, what you want to do with language is one thing, but in a formal setting, you should really be careful of your choice of language and that you never use offensive language. So to conclude, I would like to just reiterate the fact that careful proofreading and editing of your work is extremely important if you want to make a favorable impression on your reader. So don't be too quick just to say, you know what, it's good enough, I'm just going to send it the way it is, because whatever you put down in writing is permanent, isn't it? It lasts. It can't be erased. An email, once it's sent, that person has it in a file for as long as they want it. Once you're applying for a job and you send in your resume or you send in a cover letter, you can't change that. And those first impressions when somebody looks at your resume or a cover letter are crucial. In the business world, if you're writing a business letter or a business proposal, don't rush it, because if there are mistakes, you're not going to leave a very favorable impression, and you can't change it. You can't say, oh, that's not what I meant. Yeah, I know I made some mistakes there. I shouldn't have done that. You're not able to retract what you've done. So my final thought here is to tell you that proofreading, yes, it takes time, but it is honestly worth the extra effort, because when you're ready to present your writing to your reader, you can hand it in with confidence. And what I always tell people is the fact that if you write well, you speak well. They all go hand in hand. So once you write well, you become more articulate, you present yourself better and clear and more and with more force, and leave a better impression if you write well and you speak well. They go hand in hand. So I hope that this is helpful to you. Keep this list with you if you are ever working on any piece of writing that you know is important, you know it's going to be an academic piece or a piece for your job, and follow these pointers, and please let me know if you have any questions or if I can be of any further assistance. Thank you so much, and I do hope that you found this video on proofreading and editing helpful. Thanks. Bye-bye.